Welcome to another very informative episode of Mental Wellness Insights, bringing sunlight into mental health. In our next two episodes, we are privileged to have a conversation with Maryann Ehmann, a former U.S. prosecuting attorney, corporate financial advisor, ministry leader, business owner, and life coach. Maryann confesses to have struggled with self-doubt. Tune in as she gives us valuable insights about self-doubt. Welcome. I will start by welcoming you, Maryann Ehmann, to this conversation. And so we are glad to have you today to speak to us about something that really is very important for every single person, self-doubt. Because I believe that a lot of people are not achieving their purpose because of not having enough confidence in themselves. So today we would want to delve a little bit about self-doubt and get probably to enlighten people about self-doubt and how they would know they have self-doubt and how they would navigate themselves out of that. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Pamela. This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, self-doubt. And mostly because I've struggled with it most of my life. And along the way, through coaching and through my relationship with the Lord, I've been given insights and revelations about it and how to deal with that. I don't think we ever totally overcome self-doubt.
No.
But I think we need to know what to do, how to recognize it, what to do when we do recognize it, what are the effects on our emotions and on our choices, right?
Yeah.
And what do we do once we see it? How do we get back on the rock of certainty, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually, move forward?
Now you say that you struggled with self-doubt. Now, how did you get to know, to discover that what you're struggling with is self-doubt?
Yeah, it was more of a revelation because what I saw in myself, and I see this in my clients too, and that's part of the reason why they come, because when people have ideas and dreams and desires and they know they're of God, but they're not moving forward in them, it's a very frustrating experience, right?
Yeah.
So we might not know what self-doubt is, which I will explain that in a minute, but what we'll see is the effect of it. We'll feel ourselves feel frustrated. We'll feel ourselves feel stuck and thwarted, right? On the other hand, in reaction to that, we oftentimes will try to overachieve. We'll try to do too much. We'll try to be perfect. We'll try to please everybody, right? We'll go way out of our way to try to achieve that which we desire, even with God.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of times we feel like we can't. We're not doing it right, right? Or maybe we've made so many mistakes that they're irredeemable or irrevocable, or the consequences of it are too great, so we don't want to make that mistake again, right?
Yeah.
So getting back to self-doubt, the revelation that came to me about it was, first the word doubt came to me, all right? The word doubt is throughout the Bible. Word doubt is something that everybody struggles with. We all know that.
Yeah.
But what does doubt actually mean? Double-mindedness. That's what doubt means. That we have two minds, two thoughts, two beliefs that about the same thing. And those two beliefs are actually in conflict with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Or one belief that we are magnificent beings created by a loving God of infinite intelligence, here to do great works on the world, is one belief.
Yeah.
And the other belief is, I don't have what it takes. I'm going to mess it up. I'm not going to hear God right? I'm going to go ahead of him, so therefore I'm not going to move at all, right? Not my agenda, but God's agenda. Is it my will? Is it his will? Right? We go back and forth on that. Mm-hmm. Those two beliefs are warring, and they're causing us one to go in that direction, one to go in that direction. And when they pull at each other, where you go? Nowhere.
Nowhere. Right?
Yeah. So doubt is, in essence, double-mindedness about something. Mm-hmm. Self-doubt is double-mindedness about yourself, about your worth, your value, the significance you have in this world, what you can expect, your competence, all of those, your relationship with God, all of that. So it's having two thoughts about who you are.
Yeah.
Okay? And they are basically opposite each other. We can have those two thoughts at the same time. And so that can make us feel a little bit crazy,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
A little schizophrenic in some ways, you know?
Mm.
So anyway, that's really what self-doubt is. And I saw first the effect of it before I could label it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. So after you realized, after you could label it, what was your next step?
Well, the first thing was, as a broad stroke solution, all right, now back up from that. The bottom line is this. It's knowing the unconditional love of God. Okay? That is ultimately the cure. How we get there may be a tricky pathway.
Yeah.
But the unconditional love of God has contained in it our security, has contained in it our identity, our worth, our value, right? Mm. So within the context of unconditional love, we are all we're ever going to need to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we really bask in the unconditional love of God, then you start to notice you don't feel quite as insecure. You're willing to take more chances.
Yeah.
You're willing to forgive yourself for mistakes that you made, right? Mm-hmm. You're willing to put yourself out there and not be afraid of people's judgment. Okay? So I started to experience unconditional love in such a profound way, in multiple different ways. Now, I didn't always stay in that space. I didn't always feel that.
Yeah.
And when I didn't feel that, I then would be subject to programming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would be subject to the world culture. I would be subject to religious spirits. I would be subject to looking at my own mistakes.
Yeah.
You know? And that would be, I'd focus more on that than the unconditional love of God. So I had to develop some strategies around that. Okay? The first thing that I did was, or it's not the first thing, because what I worked with at first wasn't where I ended up.
Yeah.
Eventually, I came to a process.
Yeah.
That worked for me and works for a lot of my clients. The first thing is to become aware that you're feeling this. Self-doubt produces a feeling. It's a feeling of unworthiness,
Yes.
inadequacy, insecurity. You don't feel grounded. You don't feel brave or courageous, right? You don't have confidence. You feel like you can't do it, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever that is that you feel called to do, even. And so you have to become aware. And a lot of times we hear that we have to stay positive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to stay positive. Don't let any fear get in. Don't let any doubt get in. Don't pay attention to negative emotions. And so what people end up doing is sweeping them under the carpet, ignoring them, berating themselves for even having them.
Yeah.
You know? I'm a Christian. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't think this way. That doesn't do any good.
No.
It does not free you. All right? It does not free you. So the first thing really is to become aware, more conscious of your negative emotions surrounding this, and acknowledge it and accept it. Okay? This is not giving more fuel or power to it. It's actually diffusing it.
Yeah.
So the second step really is, I call welcoming it.
Yeah. So first you must acknowledge your negative emotions. You cannot deny that you have negative emotions. So the first step is very important. Acknowledge before you can deal with it.
Of course you're free to deny it. You know, of course you're free to just run away from it and say, no, it doesn't exist. I don't feel that way, you know? Because a lot of times if somebody even points it out to you, you'll get defensive.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll get defensive, you'll justify, you'll explain it, right? Anything to show that you're not wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So give yourself the permission to allow yourself these emotions without feeling like you got to be put down. Just own it. Own it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the first step.
Yeah.
The second step is people think this is a little weird, and that is welcome it. I'm not saying wallow in it.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between welcoming it and wallowing it.
Yeah.
Wallowing it. Right?
Yeah.
Wallowing in it is you're giving it more power. Wallowing in is that you are justifying it. You are invested in it. Okay? Nobody's going to take away my right to be angry or my right to feel insecure, my right?
Yeah.
So welcoming it isn't that. Welcoming it is saying, all right, I see why you feel this way. Right? I see where this comes from. I understand. Is
it like owning up to it? Owning up to the feeling of self-doubt?
Yes, it's an owning up to it, as well as it's devoid of any judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you start to judge yourself, because people judge themselves thinking that is going to make them better.
Yeah.
Thinking if I beat myself up about this, I won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But we've just compounded the problem.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So you have to extend unconditional love to yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And say, you know, with we have a false self and a true self. The false self wants to beat you up because they think that that's going to be the way to make you improved and better. Your true self is connected to God.
Yes.
Your true self is one with God, and God doesn't beat us up.
No.
Now, there's preachers and teachers that present God in such a way that beats you up.
Yeah.
And the more I cry over this, and the sorrier I am and the sadder I am and the wailing on the floor about it all, the better it is. No. No, God does not require that.
Mm.
God wants you to see yourself as he sees you, which is full of love and grace and favor and magnificence. You are the crowning jewel of his creative powers, right? God doesn't want you beating yourself up and getting down real low.
Mm-hmm.
It is not elevating to him.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
So welcoming it is your true self coming alongside and saying, I understand, right? But you don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
You don't need to feel angry. And this is the third step, let's surrender this to our loving God. Let's take all this negativity and these emotions and let's put it on a silver platter. And let's lift it up to him and say, thank you for taking this. Thank you that I don't have to carry this shame and this guilt and this insecurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You give it to God.
Mm.
And I actually go through visual experiences with God doing this.
Mm.
I have many, many visual experiences I take my clients through to help them to actually experience the love of God. You can't just know the love of God. It's experience, it's feeling it. It's like saturating your being. When that happens, this leaves. 1 John 4 says, perfect love casts out fear. Because fear has to do with punishment. Yeah. Right? Yeah. If we have a view of God as a punishing God, this isn't going to work for you. But if you have God as an accepting, unconditionally love, God that favors you, this will be great relief.
A gracious God.
What's that?
A gracious God. Full of grace.
Full of grace.
Yes.
Full of grace, full of heart. Like there's nothing you can do that is going to surprise him, that's going to shake him, that's going to disturb him. You know?
Yeah.
We can't disappoint God because God knows everything.
Exactly. God knew even before you were created.
Yes. He knew. He knew all the mistakes you were going to make. He knew all the sins you were going to commit. And he died for all of that.
Exactly.
Right? Past, present, future. Yeah. Now, embodying that is very important. It's not just knowing that here, but so we get to practice this. Yeah. So once you surrender to God, and this can happen happen multiple times in a day. Right? Yeah. Right. Whenever you become aware, and the more you are aware of this, the easier it becomes. Okay? Yeah. So what you do is you surrender this to God. And like I said, sometimes I imagine myself as even a child, and I put all these negative emotion on a silver platter and I send it up to him. Yeah. Right? Now the truth of the matter, he's all inside you. It's not like we have to send it anywhere. It's right here. Right? Yeah. Yes. Right here. Yeah. But there's that image within of presenting it to God. Then what you do is receive back his love. You receive back his validation of you. Because that's what we're looking for is validation. Yeah. We're trying to find it all out there, right? But God, in those intimate moments with him, we get validation. Yeah. And that validation is so powerful that anybody else's validation pales in comparison. Like you can say, somebody can say, oh my God, you did a great job. Yay, you. And you can go, thank you, very kind of you. Yeah. Very kind of you. But it doesn't have the same feeling as God's validation. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So once you do that, now you're at a place of power. You've just stepped into next level power, next level identity. Yeah. Right? And now with that, what is God calling you to do? And it could be a big mission. It could be a small change and a shift in a relationship. You know? Yeah. So, yeah. So that's basically how to overcome it. But it takes practice, and it takes awareness, and it takes a lot of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it right to say that self-doubt could emanate from not knowing our purpose?
Well, I think sometimes we don't know our purpose because of self-doubt.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times God is giving us our purpose. It's already in us, right? And we'll think about it. But then we might say, oh, that's too big for me. And we'll dismiss it.
True.
Or we might think, I don't want to do that. That's just like, and we'll dismiss it. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll get ideas a lot of times because God's always talking to us and giving us ideas, things, but we don't necessarily know it's God. And so therefore, we'll start down a road with an idea and we'll hit a roadblock. Oh, that's not going to work. Or how's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those questions, how's that going to happen, thwarts us. How's that going to happen is a self-doubt question.
Is it just a self-doubt or also doubting God?
Yes. Yes, very much so. It's very difficult to overcome self-doubt when you're doubting God.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, part of the process is learning how to trust God more, but you also have to learn how to trust God more to begin with. Okay? So our whole lives are filled with experiences, problems, crises. And through those, we are learning how to either back away from God or trust God more.
Yeah.
But God's plan for us is to go back to childhood when there wasn't any doubt.
Sure. Yeah, the Bible tells us to be like children.
Exactly.
Yeah, to believe like
that.
children.
So one of the things is it's a return back to love. It's a return back to who we really are. It's a return back to trusting as a child.
It's a return back to the original purpose of God for us.
Yes. Yes. And that in itself is a purpose of life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay? Once we have that underlying certainty that we are loved by God and we've experienced it, then moving forward in your passion and your purpose is easy.
Yeah.
You feel the backing of God moving forward.
Yes.
So even if you doubt yourself, right, which you can get out of that, but even if you doubt yourself, if you have a strong enough trust in God, that will override your self-doubt and carry you forward.
Exactly. And you remember the verse that says, I can do all things through God who gives me.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes, we can do all things. Now, unfortunately, some people, I did this, some people think that means I'm supposed to do all things. And so you beat yourself up because you're not doing all things, right?
Yeah.
Rather than not all things are yours to do, right?
So it's God who enables you. So God does it through you.
Yeah, God does it through us.
Yes.
And God gives us assignments.
Yeah.
Right? So he doesn't give us everything to do all at one time. No, we're learning along the way. So each assignment we get isn't just for the betterment of somebody else. It's also to grow and expand us, our faith, our trust, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that since I've come to look at life as this marvelous journey of returning back to love, of returning back to who we really are.
Yes,
you know?
that is deep. That is deep. Yes, returning back to love, to who we really are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we can use our life experiences. One experience that I had that was very instrumental in this, and I've had many, many, many experiences. And, if anybody wants to more information, I did, back in 2020, I did a 30-day miracle challenge.
Yeah.
And I did it because I personally, in the face of COVID and not knowing where things were going, I personally wanted to do something every day that was going to bolster my faith in a big God who's got a handle on everything, and there are miracles to be had, right? So I do 30 days, and every day I talk about a miracle, either from the Bible, from my own life, or somebody else's life, right? And I'll tell you, 30 days wasn't even enough for all the miracles.
Yeah.
But if we focus on that, it improves, it increases, it elevates our trust.
Yeah.
It bolsters our trust. Therefore, it's going to also bolster our, it's going to elevate our feelings and perceptions about ourselves. All right?
Yeah.
So our perception about ourselves determines our reality. So when our perceptions are not aligned with God's perceptions of us, so if God thinks we're magnificent and we think we're lowly worms, we're going to live a life of a lowly worm.
Yeah.
Rather than a life of magnificence.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what we want to do, aside from self-doubt, what we want to do is always aligning our view, elevating our view of God, elevating our view of ourselves.
Elevating our view of ourselves. Elevating our view of God. Very important. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then your purpose will flow out of that. A lot of people are trying to find their purpose because they're trying to find meaning. Okay? They want meaning. They want to do something that gives them meaning. The truth is, they already have meaning. God's already given them meaning. They are, if they don't lift a finger, they are important.
Yeah, but God has given them a meaning, but they do not realize this.
Right.
So
they do not realize.
So they go about trying to find a meaning.
Yes. Yeah. So before you can even find meaning, though, you need to find who you are according to God.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? You need to elevate your own view of yourself and align it with God's view of you. So then you have to go before that, well, what is God's view of me?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? You know? How does God see me?
Yeah.
And a lot of that you're going to be taught. You're going to have a filter through which you learned about God. Right? Yeah. So if your view of God is a finger wagging, shame on you kind of God, right? Then you're going to have a view of yourself. You're going to perceive that God thinks of you like this. You know? Big hairy eyeball. Always micromanaging you.
A fault-finding God, that could be.
A fault-finding God, yes. Who wants to be close to that?
No, nobody.
No,
yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I used to have that view of God, and so I became an atheist.
Yeah. Ah, wow.
I didn't know that's why I became an atheist till years later God showed me. And what brought me back to God was the revelation of his love that was like a consuming fire in my body. I never felt so loved in my whole life. I was not looking for God. God invaded me. God came upon me.
How did
God didn't ask.
How did this revelation come? How did you experience this revelation?
You mean what were the circumstances that led up to it?
Yes.
Well, I was a prosecuting attorney.
Yeah.
I had a very stressful but high-powered job, you know, putting bad guys away, right? And it was an excellent position, and I had a lot of benefits and perks to it, but it wasn't satisfying to my soul. I was feeling very like this should be good. I make a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm in high-powered, high positions. I'm doing a good work in the world. This should be good.
Yeah.
Why do I feel so bad?
Yeah.
And I realized that I had to be somebody else to do that job. So disconnect with my true self, which I wasn't even aware what that was, right? But a disconnect was happening. The second thing was loneliness. I was very lonely. I was only the second woman ever to be hired in the state for that position.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal. But men didn't know what to do with a smart woman in a high-profile position.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get asked out on dates very often, you know?
Yeah.
And I was lonely that way. I was lonely also because I felt like I had to protect myself all the time. You know?
Yeah.
I feared criticism. And a lot of times when you're in court and you're presenting a case, all eyes are on you.
Yeah.
And if you make a mistake, it's in the newspaper.
Yeah. Yes.
Back then when people read papers. So all that was going on. God was I never even thought for a minute that God was what I needed because I was an atheist. So one of my sisters had a born-again experience, was very excited about the Lord and accepting the Lord and reading the Bible. And I went home on vacation one Thanksgiving in this state of depression.
Yeah.
So she tried to get me to listen to the Bible. And as she read the Bible to me, I got madder and madder and madder, and I actually wanted to smack her. I was so mad.
Wow.
Like, I don't believe, but I didn't want to disturb her faith. I felt it was important to her. I wanted to honor her faith, but I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know? And many people over the years evangelize to me.
Yeah.
And I was always trying to be respectful, but it never ever resonated. It never landed. It creeped me out. Truly.
Yeah.
Creeped me out. I still don't like it when I hear people doing it. I don't. Because that is not how God did it with me.
Yeah.
All right? So here it is. She's reading her Bible to me. And I'm getting more and more upset. And finally, she says to me, I'll stop reading if you go to church with us in the morning. I'm like, whatever it takes, just stop.
Yeah.
Right?
If it takes going to church, I will go.
And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I haven't been in a church in how many years? I don't even know what to do in church anymore. You know, it's like, no desire.
Yeah.
No desire. But I agreed. I agreed to go. And the next morning, her children were sick, so she couldn't go. And I'm thinking, I don't have to go, you know. Mm-hmm. And her husband says, I'll take you.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. So I did go with this thought, what can it hurt?
Yeah.
That's all. What can it hurt?
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to church, and the first thing that surprised me, it wasn't in a church building. It was in an office building.
Oh, okay.
So that was a reframe for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That threw me off. It also was a room, an upper room, where it was all this light coming in, nothing on the walls. People were sitting in chairs, and people just started singing without any hymnals. Yeah. And I thought, oh, this sounds like angels. If I believed in angels, this sounds like angels. Mm-hmm. That threw me off. Mm-hmm. So the things that led up to it were I was in a place in need. God was not my answer. But somebody led me to a place where I could receive God, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay? The pastor started preaching, and at that point, I'm starting to feel a little like a child.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't know what's going on here, you know? And the pastor starts preaching about the Greeks and how they honored the wisdom of the world, education, all the things that they believed gave them value, right? That was valuable to them. And I realized that's me. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
I've taken on all the things of the world to give me value and meaning and money, right? Then he had us take out a coin, and the coin said, he told us to read it together. We all took out a coin, and what's on a coin? In God we trust.
Wow.
That's what it said.
Yeah.
A coin. Now, I never noticed that, right? Never noticed that. So as we're reading as a group, in God we trust, Pamela, it was like,
gosh,
the love of God came upon me, rose up inside of me. It was not something that necessarily came from the outside, it came from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from the inside, it was like hurricane, rushing winds, electricity. All at the same time. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it felt really good.
Yeah.
Doubt means double-mindedness. Self-doubt is double-mindedness about oneself, about self-worth, value, significance, and relationship with God. A disconnect with true self. True self versus false self. Seeking validation from the world as opposed to seeking from God. Tune in next Monday for the continuation of this interesting conversation. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't. Share, click on the notification bell, and